Hello everyone. Today I thought that I would do a quick makeup look that might be especially appropriate for Thanksgiving. And as inspiration for this look, I have this little Guerlain eyeshadow quad that came out last year. This is called Undressed Brown, and I do like this particular quad, but I haven't used it on camera before, so I thought that I would go ahead and do that today. So it reminds me of Thanksgiving, especially because it does have this color in it that's a copper color, but it's really almost like a pumpkin orange, and then there's a couple of different brown shades in here, and then there is one shade that is kind of a cream color that kind of reminds me of whipped cream. So I always think of Thanksgiving, especially when I use this quad. So I feel like this is now or never in terms of just demonstrating it on camera. And then in addition, I'm using a few other luxury makeup products and really aiming for a look that would take most people 5 or 10 minutes to put on. And I did notice that this palette is no longer available on the Sephora website, but I do see it on the Guerlain website still and on a lot of other different retailer websites. And so first, a little bit of information about me. I am 60 years old and I have dry and very, very sensitive skin. And over the past 3 years, I have tried more than 1,000 makeup products, mostly luxury and high-end. And so I do have a pretty good basis of comparison for everything that I try on this channel. And really, in my real life, I only spend 5 or 10 minutes a day putting on makeup, but I do want to have products that help me to look a little bit fresher and maybe even a little bit younger, and also that can be kind of fun on occasion and without causing any irritation in my skin, and also without causing my wrinkles or other texture issues on my face to look worse. And one thing that I have found is that there are certain ingredients that always do irritate my sensitive skin, and I know that these are very irritating for many other people as well. So I just don't talk about products with those ingredients on this channel. So to start out with, a few minutes ago, I put on a little bit of the Base Face Milk from Ilia as kind of a primer and a light moisturizer. And I thought that for my lips, I would put on this Creal lip balm, which is called The Adults Are Talking. And I did just get this, and so I've been experimenting with it. And I do think it's a nice lip balm. Now, it is quite expensive, so I'm not sure if it's worth as much as they are charging, but I do think it has worked well for me so far. And now I'll put on just a little bit of color corrector and just a little tiny bit under my eyes, because then that will allow me to use a little bit less concealer. And for this, I have the Bobbi Brown Skin Concealer in the shade Light Bisque, and I do think that that works well under my eyes, so I can just even blend this in with my finger. I don't need to be too careful about it, and it does blend in really nicely. And then I'm going to use my Creal Concealer, and this product is one that I can use on my face in general, so it is gentle enough that I can use on my eyelids, and I don't think that it exacerbates the look of the wrinkles on my face, and I can use it in just really small areas. And so this is a kind of a speedy thing because I'm just using one product rather than a variety of products, because if I were to use a cream concealer, then I'd have to use something else on my eyelids. And I am using this as a base on my eyelids because I think that this works a lot better as a base for eyeshadow than really any of the eyelid primers that I have used, because most of those do irritate my eyes. And then I think I will take this Westman Atelier powder, which is called Vital Skincare or something, and I will just put a little bit of this over my face just to take down the residual shine and even it out a little bit. And this does come in a pink color, and sometimes I think that I should have gotten the pink color instead of this one, because I tend to be kind of a fan of pink powders. But I think that that one actually leans to be more like a brightening type of a powder for really light skin. And the pink powders that I like tend to be a little bit more bright in terms of the color, and therefore to add a little bit of life to my face. And so maybe this one is the best shade for me after all. And this is not a powder that I would use if I was had on a really creamy type of a foundation that was really glowy. But I think that for a makeup look like this, where I'm not really wearing any foundation and just wearing a little bit of concealer, I think this is actually a really nice product. And I think I kind of like the look that it gives me in terms of how my skin looks when I'm done with it. And then whenever I want to do a quick makeup look, I do rely on my Jones Road eyebrow pencil. So this goes on really, really fast. And it has little fibers in it, and so I feel like I can put it on my eyebrows and it gives them a little bit of texture in addition to darkening them. And I'm using this in the shade Ash. And this is not an eyebrow pencil that will necessarily last really well, especially if you're sweating or out in the rain or have a long day. But I think it is so easy to put on that it even if I had to refresh it halfway through the day, it would still take a lot less time than using most of the other types of eyebrow alternatives that I have tried and found to work okay for me. And I think that this is a fairly realistic look, and that it looks not just like my eyebrows are drawn on, but that there actually is eyebrow texture there. And the Ash shade, I think, is the right one for me, considering especially that my hair is going a bit gray. And then I can move on to this eyeshadow palette. And one thing that I want to say is that even though these look like they are fairly neutral colors, I feel like all of the Guerlain palettes are so pigmented that does make it a little bit challenging for me. So my complexion tends to be pretty low contrast, and when I put on too much eyeshadow, it really does start to look pretty bad really fast. And so most of the palettes from Guerlain are really, really bright colors, so I would really do badly with all of those, I think. But even this one is so highly pigmented that I have to be a little bit careful with it. So one thing to know about Guerlain is that the creative director for the company is Violette, who has her own company called Violette FR. But I think that Guerlain is really her main job, and that she does put a lot of work into that company. And all of these eyeshadow palettes, I think, are ones that were really designed by her. And most of them are very bright, and I think she does tend to go for a more dramatic look that she can pull off, but that I have more difficulties pulling off. And unfortunately, although Guerlain seems to have a lot of nice makeup products, most of them do have problematic ingredients in them. Almost all of them do have fragrance in them, and I can't use those at all. But these eyeshadow palettes, the ingredient list looked really good to me, and I haven't had any problems with it irritating my eyes at all. So that has been a really good thing. So what I do with this palette is that in addition to putting down the concealer on my eyes, what I do is start out with this color here. And what I have found is that if I put this color on first, this kind of beigey white color, if I put this on my eyelids first and then I put the other colors on top of that, then I feel like they blend in and they're not quite as stark, and they're kind of muted out a little bit. And so that has made a big difference in terms of my usability of being able to make this palette work for me. Before I started doing that, I had a really hard time getting it to be subtle enough to really work for me. And I actually think that this is a really pretty color too. So it kind of reminds me of like whipped cream for Thanksgiving, so that is kind of goes along with the theme as well. So what I'm going to do now is just put on just a little tiny bit of this orange color, and let's see, and I'll just put this all over the mobile part of my lids, and then I put it up a little bit. And so this is what I have seen people say that is attractive if you have hooded eyes, so that you can see the color a little bit when your eyes are open. And put on a little bit, and then maybe I can put on a little bit more possibly. But I think that it's working much better than it has in the past when I haven't put this layer of the white on. So if you're looking for a subtle Thanksgiving look, then this is kind of nice. And next what I'll do is put on this color here, and this is a slightly satin in a brown color. And I think it's a little bit on the warm brown, but if I just put a tiny little bit of it in the corners here, then it should give my hooded eyes a little bit of dimension. I definitely don't feel like I do very well when I try to do a cut crease or anything like that. See how dark that got all of a sudden? My goodness. See, if you're not really careful with this palette, you can get really carried away fast. So I can fix that by putting on a little bit more concealer, but I have to be more careful. Or I could go and start over again, but that seems like a lot of trouble. Well, that doesn't look too bad. And one thing that I typically do when I put on any kind of concealer or foundation is that I usually do brush it in with the brush. And I forgot to do that so far, so I'll just go ahead and do that now. And then maybe we'll put on a little more powder later on. Okay, let's see how this is looking. I think we could use a little bit more of the orange color. I put it on very lightly, so I think we'll just put on a little bit more of that to get an actual orangey look. So I was thinking that if I were a little younger and a lot more famous, that this could be called something like pumpkin pie girl look or pumpkin spice core look, something like that. And this is really pretty. You just have to be super careful with it. All right, then I'll put a little bit of that brown shade right just in the corners and try not to get carried away. And then my understanding is that this shade is intended as an eyeliner type of a shade. So this is more matte, and I think it's not quite as reddish. So I will put a small line here right along my lash line. And then I'll put a little bit of it underneath my eyes. And I don't think that's too bad. Sometimes if I put reddish type browns underneath my eyelashes, my eyes start to look really like they're irritated. But in this case, I think this is a neutral enough color brown that it's not doing that. And then I'll do the other one. And then I'll just use this brush and just try to blend it a little bit. And so I don't think it looks bad. I just think that it's not really designed for people like me. So I think that you either have to be someone who is really good at putting on eyeshadow so that you can put on very small amounts of it, or you need to be someone that wants a really dramatic eye makeup look, or someone who has a lot darker skin than I do. And so for me, this has been a bit of a challenge, but for a lot of other people, it might be really nice and they might really like those heavily pigmented shades. And so in a few minutes I'll put on some mascara, and I think that that will help it to look better. But in the meantime, let's put a little bit more makeup on my face and then see how the eyes are looking and if they need to be adjusted. Now last month I purchased this blush from Chanel, and this is called Les Terreaux de Chanel, and it is in the color Blood Orange. And I think that this is a very nice Thanksgiving type shade as well, so I thought that I would use this as the basis. And then over the top of this, I actually have a shade from MOB Beauty that is a cream blush, and this one is in the color of M118, and they describe this as kind of a pumpkin color, and it doesn't have a lot of a saturation to it, and I thought that that might be nice to put over the powder blush. So typically when I use a powder blush, I do kind of like a cream blush over the top of it, and so I thought this could be a good combination and that I would give it a try. I haven't tried it until today, so we'll see how it works out. So this is the Chanel blush, and this is the Jones Road blush brush that the people from the Allure Best of Beauty Awards gave an award to this year, and I do like it. This is the short version that was from their travel kit last year, but my understanding is that the regular size is exactly the same size head and just not with as short of a handle. And so I feel like I will just kind of rub this in a little bit. Or I could use this brush to like buff it in a little bit. So I still really like the color of this, and I've actually worn this quite a few times over the fall just because I really like it. And then I'll try putting a little bit of this MOB Beauty color over the top of it, and we'll just see what it looks like. So this is a fairly stiff formula. It's called Cream Clay Blush, and it has a fair amount of clay in it that keeps it from getting too melty and keeps it from disappearing from the face really fast. And so it does take a little bit of buffing to put into my skin, but after it actually gets into my skin, I think that it does hold up really well. And I know that some people would use a brush to try to pick this up and to put it on their face, but I'm a little too impatient for that, I think. And then probably I'll put a little powder over that, mute it out a little bit. But let's see how it does when we just work on my lips. So for my lips, last year I purchased a product from Eldridge, which is a liquid lipstick that is in the Velveteen Dragon shade. So this is kind of an orangish, brownish, slightly reddish type of a color that I really kind of like a lot. And I don't usually wear liquid lipsticks, but I kind of feel like for Thanksgiving, maybe they would be especially appropriate, because if you're going to be doing a lot of eating, they might hold up a little bit better. And then I have this color lip liner from Chanel that I bought along with that blush, and this is in the color that they are calling beige orange, and I really do like this color a lot, and I really do like the Chanel lip liners. They really seem to still be my favorites. And so I will go ahead and line my lips with this lip pencil. And I do usually purse my lips together and kind of move this around so that it looks like it's just a lipstick made out of lip pencil. And so let's try a little bit of this liquid lip product. And this is surprisingly easy to put on from my recollection, so let's see if I can do it today. And this is intended so you can do a nice little, it's almost liner. So I'll see if I can make it a little bit more exact. And I usually am not a fan of liquid lipsticks at all, because they tend to be very drying to the lips, and they also tend not to taste very good. But this one I think is nice. I think Eldridge did a good job with this. And this kind of makes me think I should get one of her Velvet Dragon lipsticks, because I do like this shade. And so I will put on a little bit more of this Westman Atelier powder, maybe a lot more. I mean, I do like the way that this looks, but as powders go, this is probably the least oil absorbent powder that I have in my collection. But it does melt into the skin very pretty. And then I also recently picked up another shade of the Highlight Balm from MOB Beauty in a shade that's, I think, a rose gold type of a shade. And I thought that this would be a nice thing to add just for a little bit more highlighting and maybe a tiny little bit of color. So let's see how this works with this. And I'll just put a tiny little bit on here. So I think that in terms of giving my face a little bit of kind of youthful moisture, I think this is very nice. And I think of it kind of as a substitute for the Jones Road Miracle Balm. And let's see how the eyes are looking before I put on some mascara. I think maybe I could use a little bit of that white shade. And maybe I can even use my finger and just put a really small amount of this over the top as a little bit of like added shimmer. And if you do this, then it kind of mutes down the color and erases whatever kind of flaws you have. So that is kind of a good thing. And then I'll put on some mascara. And for this, I'm opening up a new mascara, and this one is from Saie. And the reason that I'm opening this up is because it's a brown shade, and so I thought that I would give it a try. And I have tried the Saie mascara before, but I haven't tried the one in the brown shade before, so we'll see how this works with this look. And of the products that Saie offers, I do think that their mascara is one that I do like. It does go on pretty easily and doesn't usually turn into a mess based on my experiences with the black one. And I feel like maybe a little bit more blush. And I will just use a little bit more of this Chanel blush over the top of it, see how that works. And I do feel like this lipstick is a little bit dry, so I thought that maybe what I would do is just take a little tiny bit of this Isamaya lip balm and put this over the top of it. This is the color Follower, which is kind of a brown shade. So if I just dab a little bit of this on the top, I don't feel like this usually disturbs my lipstick, and I feel like it just adds a little bit of a more comfortable surface that I feel like I like a little bit better. And so I looked in my collection of scarves to see if there was anything that might be appropriate. And I feel like the one that I think is the most appropriate is this one. And I think that you could certainly just use this as a little neckerchief, but I thought that what I would do is just put it on as a headband because Thanksgiving is a day where people want to look kind of cute and do kind of things that they wouldn't wear most of the time. So let me give that a try, see how that works. So again, I don't think that this is a look that I would probably wear most of the time to do anything else, but I think as a little Thanksgiving look, it's kind of cute and kind of festive. So thanks very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if there are any kind of luxury type makeup products that you really like, that you find to be fun to use whenever you get them out, then please let me know about that. In addition, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel yet, then I hope you will go ahead and do that. And thank you very much for watching. Coco and I love you very much. Goodbye.